Welcome back to another AP World History video, and today we're doing the very last of all the videos for the year, and that is on the subject of globalization. I can't say how important this topic is because we're right in the middle of it, although I'm not so sure. We might actually be on the cusp of the end of globalization, but we're moving into something very different. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. But in order to do that, let's contextualize things a little bit here. You might be asking right now, what are you talking about globalization? We've been studying all year about AP World History and about how many times there's been some type of global type of project that goes on. I mean, think back to when we talked about Ibn Battuta, the Muslim explorer who traveled all the way from eastern China all the way over to Africa. Or think of Zheng He, the first major explorer in the world who went all the way from China all the way over to Western Africa with over 300 ships and 10,000 men. We might even talk about European exploration, where Europeans went all the way around the world, circumnavigating the world and finding new continents and new groups of people, right? So why are we talking about being in globalization today when that's been going on for some time? Well, what I would say is globalization has changed so much. What used to be what we would call globalization was kind of a slow process, and it was very disconnected and it was fragmented. But today that's changed. And that's changed because of very specific policies that have been made and also some really big changes with technology that you're probably pretty familiar with. But I gotta say, I don't know if we're still headed in globalization. We might be headed back to a previous period, like the one we studied about with mercantilism. How? Well, we're going to talk a little bit today about what's been going on recently, especially with President Trump and the rest of the world, because that's going to demonstrate that things are a-changing.
For the times they are a-changing.
And you need to know about that. So let's start off by talking about when globalization really got started, at least the most current version. In 1944, right before the end of World War II, there was a conference, and the conference took place in a tiny town, New Hampshire. You probably never even heard of it, called Bretton Woods. And at this conference, all the major countries joined together. They were just about to beat fascism and Adolf Hitler, and they made an agreement. And their agreement was the following. They were going to have America become the new global leader, and they were going to become the global leader in economics. They were going to ask countries to start lowering tariffs. Those are those taxes on trade goods. And then they were going to establish two major global institutions, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, sets rules for how countries ought to trade. And how are they going to do something like that? Well, they've got to industrialize, they've got to lower their tariffs, and then on top of all that, they've got to fight inflation. If they do all those things, the World Bank gives them money. Well, what are they supposed to do with this money? Well, they're going to build up their industrialization so that they can go out there and they can start trading with one another. Now, the purpose behind all of this at the time was really to create a global economy, especially to fight communism. But what ended up happening over the long term was that it created a global marketplace where people started trading with each other, especially countries in the global north began trading much more with countries in the global south. Countries in the global north included places like Europe and North America. In the global south, it included places like Africa, Latin America, and Asia. Okay, after that, there were some major treaties that were formed in order to make sure that tariffs would continue to get lowered. In 1947, there was a meeting that was called, and there was an agreement made called the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT. That was an agreement that was made to lower overall tariffs for most countries. Now we go all the way then up to 1997. In 1997, there was another agreement made called the WTO, or the World Trade Organization. This established a court in which you could actually take countries to court and sue them for not lowering their tariffs. Now, in the midst of all that context, some people started to get some ideas. Like, for example, over in Europe. Over in Europe, the European countries said, hey, you know something? We're going to create our own market that's going to lower tariffs. And in doing that, we're going to make sure that we can be competitive around the world. Now, originally, this agreement was made in 1957. And this was known as the European Common Market. Eventually, what ended up happening was it became the European Union. And in the European Union, they established a common currency that everybody was going to use. They lowered tariffs. And they even had a government in Belgium that was going to look over this entire process. Now, in response to that, the United States got wind of it. And in 1991, under Bill Clinton, they ended up signing their own kind of idea, which was called NAFTA, or the North American Free Trade Agreement. And that was an attempt to lower tariffs and to increase trade between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. The purpose of all of this, lower overall tariffs so that you can start to have more and more trade. Now, why is it even possible for us to have all this trade that we're having? Well, the big reason why was huge changes that took place in technology. I mean, think about it. Before World War II, we had airplanes that eventually became commercial airplanes. And these commercial airplanes have allowed us to connect up the world so quickly. We've also had the development of phones that eventually led into other types of technology that allows for quick communication. But probably what was most important was in the 1950s. In the 1950s, the first computer was built. Now, this computer was not like the ones we know today. This computer took up an entire wall in a room, and all it could do was spit out a tiny little data sheet. That was all it did. But that changed because in 1991, Bill Gates came up with the personal computer. A personal computer was basically a computer that had icons on it that you could move things around, and it eventually became a laptop. Then after that was all done, the internet was formed. Now the internet started with the American military, and it was meant to be a way to share intelligence secrets, but it eventually became the World Wide Web in the 1990s, and that allowed for quick communication back and forth. But I'll tell you, the biggest thing that probably happened to change everything with technology happened in 2007. Steve Jobs stood up in front of Apple, and he made the presentation that he now had the iPhone. And the iPhone is basically a small computer that you hold in your hand and carry around. That radically changed everything. Why is all of this so important? Because all of this massive technology means that we can communicate quicker, we can transport things quicker, we can get goods and services around the world really quick, and that increases trade. Okay, so this gets us to the heart of globalization. And in order to understand globalization, you have to understand something called transnational companies. Transnational companies are companies that are located in a country like the United States or Europe, but they have satellite companies that produce things in multiple different places in the world. Let's take Nike for an example. Nike's located up in Oregon. They sell their shoes to retailers across the United States, but they don't produce their shoes here. They produce their shoes in what we call the Global South, developing countries in places like Asia and Africa and Latin America. Why? Because the labor there is really cheap. So when they have people make those shoes and send those shoes back to the United States, they can sell them at a cheaper price. And this, in essence, is what globalization is. It's about the ability for companies to outsource the production of things in cheaper areas of the world. Big question is this a good thing? Well, you could say it is. I mean, on the one hand, it offers jobs to people in the Global South. Sure, they get paid less, but their costs of living are less in those parts of the world. And it makes sure that consumers up in a place like the United States or Europe pay for goods at a cheaper price. Are there any examples that demonstrate that this has worked pretty well? Well, yeah, there are. For one thing, global poverty has fallen dramatically. In fact, it falls about 130,000 people per day. On top of that, we've seen major diseases contained around the world. And on top of all that, the global violence in the last century has declined pretty massively because people's lives have gotten better. So hey, there you go, right? Everything is good. Well, hold on for just a second. That may not be so true. Sure, global poverty has fallen, but these transnational companies go out to countries and pay workers very little pay. And these workers work incredibly long hours. In fact, in many times, they may work anywhere from 17 to 19 hours a day and get paid an incredibly low wage to do the work that they are doing. And in a lot of these countries, the reason why pay is so low is because they don't have unions and they don't have protection for these workers. And sure, overall poverty has fallen, but inequality between countries is massive. And when we say poverty has gone down, that just means people are no longer living on $2.50 per day. They're living just slightly above that. So things have changed pretty dramatically, especially in the last few years. With the election of Donald Trump, both in 2016 and 2024, globalization appears to be under attack. And maybe that's a good thing. Donald Trump has argued that what we need is to have tariffs, and tariffs need to protect us from having so many of our jobs go abroad. Basically, the idea is simple. If we put tariffs on goods that are coming into the country, people aren't going to buy them as much. And that means, or at least the hope is, more and more jobs will come back to the United States. Okay, sounds like a pretty good deal, except here's the problem. First of all, that means that all the goods that we would get from abroad that are a little bit cheaper are going to go up in price. The other big problem is it's going to isolate countries from one another, and we're not going to do as much trade as we used to do. And when countries don't trade together as much, that creates more antagonistic relationships between countries. But hey, here's the other thing. Won't at least high tariffs bring home more jobs? I don't know about that, and here's why. Unlike the past, this time around, so many of our goods are made up of so many materials from around the world that it may not be as easy as just putting a tariff on a good to stop it. That may actually stop down huge amounts of different goods coming into the country that help us to make things. So whether or not Donald Trump's ideas about tariffs are going to work is really under question. And right now the big fear is it's just going to rise up a lot of costs for people. So what are our big takeaways that we can take from this? Number one, remember that globalization was a process developed right after World War II with the hopes of containing communism. Please remember that this meant the lowering of tariffs and the increase in technology in order to get trade going between countries. And then last off, what's really important is that today we're seeing an attack on this. Maybe that's a good thing because of some of the inequalities around the world. But my big fear is that increasing tariffs on goods is just going to lead to a severing of relationships between countries and increased costs. Thanks so much. We'll see you in class.